puck is dropped, and it's showtime from downtown Winnipeg. His pass, a shot, they score! Shankly Cutter scores! What a stop by Hellebuck! Nikolai Ehlers off the faceoff!
Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Joined here, as always, by Mitchell Clinton, but we're adding a new member of the Ground Control roster, Kevin Sawyer from TSN. Kevin, welcome to the podcast, and not as a guest. I think we've gone through that.
Yeah, that's old news. I mean, it's pretty much family at this stage, I would say.
Yeah, you would say that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get right into it. This is podcast 113 of Ground Control Season 4. Our guest later on in the episode is DeMelo. Mitchell Clinton took some time to chat with him after practice last week. But obviously, things are starting to shape out for the Winnipeg Jets as the regular season gets underway on Wednesday in Anaheim. On Sunday, the Winnipeg Jets sent David Gustafsson down to the Manitoba Moose, and Dominic Toninato and Nelson Nogier were put to waivers. As we record this at 11:55 on Monday, there's still some things that could shake out. The final roster isn't totally set, so we're taking a bit of a risk here doing this podcast ahead of time.
Really putting ourselves out there.
Yeah, but that's okay. But thankfully, we have Mitchell Clinton to explain what is going to happen, maybe.
Oh, God.
So go for it.
Yeah, so, basically, and we might get a little bit more into, the salary cap stuff later, but one of the best things that you can do is keep in mind that the roster that gets submitted at, I believe it's 4 p.m. Central Time on Monday, is strictly for the purposes of long-term injured reserve, your relief pools in that regard, as well as your performance bonus relief pools. Basically, the thing that teams are trying to do is to get their payroll or their salary cap as close, especially in the Winnipeg Jets situation, as close to that $81.5 million number as they can, because what that does is it maximizes your relief pools for long-term injury reserve, performance bonus, all that kind of stuff. So it's long-term injury reserve is something that is very, I guess you could say, touchy is the wrong word, but it's very intricate. There's a lot of moving parts to it. So the best thing, and honestly, Paul Morrissey said this a couple of days ago, he just go read Murat's article in The Athletic, because actually I've read through it. It's quite extensive, but it also gives a really good insight into how this all works. He's got a guy from Puckpedia, which is one of those types of websites that you can look at to see how this all works, and you can actually move guys around and see how close you can get to $81.5 million. So lots going on, but the main thing to keep in mind is what you see one day may not be what you see on Wednesday in terms of the Jets roster. It's all just a matter of trying to get as close to that number as possible, and then after that, when your long-term injury reserve and all that stuff starts to kick in, then you have some room to be able to manipulate and move some things around. But yeah, that's a long way of saying not much that we know is concrete. Nothing is permanent, I believe, is what Paul Morrissey always likes to say.
Yeah, and one of the things that could change, and I think will change in the coming days here, is the status of Evgeny Svechnikov. Kevin, he obviously at this point remains unsigned. He was at camp on a PTO, does have a contract with the Manitoba Moose, an AHL deal. What have you thought of his training camp so far that has, earned him the right to play pretty much every preseason game? Obviously, Paul Morrissey sort of hinted that everybody who's at camp right now is going to play games for the Winnipeg Jets. So I would imagine there's some sort of formality attached to this, but just what have you thought of his play so far?
Yeah, I would say that it would be a surprise if the paperwork on a deal for him to be a Winnipeg Jet is going to be done fairly soon, because I think that he's done all the things that they were hoping to see from him to get a contract and to be a part of this team through training camp. Not a surprise to see him get as many games as he did. So you're looking at a 19th overall pick back in 2015. So this guy out of junior was a stud. Put over 60 goals up in just over 100 games with Cape Breton in 2 years. So, to this point, he hasn't really achieved or translated what they thought he would be or who they thought that he would be. into the NHL game. So there's some excitement underlying there. Now, do I think that he's going to come and rip it up offensively? No, but I still do believe that that's a potential, and that there's some secondary scoring that he could provide if he's in the right situation, plays with the right players, and finds his confidence. So there's room here for him to do that, I believe. But what stands out for me in his game is, first and foremost, he seems like a strong, solid man that can skate. So, a third line or a fourth line role, you have to be able to move, but you've got to have some grit to your game. He understands, I think, and more now than ever, that he has to be trustworthy defensively and to be able to play a systematic shutdown role first and to go up against other teams' good players. I think that he has that in his game, and therefore he could be a good fit, whether it's on the right side on the third line with Lowry. There's a spot to be had there. Or just a fourth line role. He can kill penalties, and he's been auditioned there as well. So I'm excited for him for what he's done, but I think there's more. And I think that perhaps there'd be some belief from Paul Morrissey and his coaching staff that with more opportunity and a sense of belonging, which I think that he might have, that he could see a real possibility of maybe unlocking something that he hasn't really achieved yet at this level. And that would be to build on what he is establishing, and that's being trusted. But I think he's a guy that can add some offense.
I get the sense of him that this is a guy that has come into camp and is almost playing free, right? I mean, like you said, he's a first-round pick. He had that pressure attached to him with the Detroit Red Wings organization, but he comes here, signs an AHL deal, and it's just like, I'm going to show you what I have, and let the chips fall where they may type of deal.
Yeah, he's not coming here, and he knows that the Jets aren't expecting him to put up points. So that unlocks you in a sense that, okay, there's no pressure to do that, but it's a bonus. And when it's viewed as a bonus now, you can kind of almost be sneaky in that way. When you score a goal and or if you add some offense, it's now considered a bonus. And on top of that, I think that it's worth noting that the relationship with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Svechnikov back in junior, they were unstoppable to some degree. And there's Pierre-Luc is really excited to have him. He was out front with that. And so there's that comfort level. He's a Russian player who speaks good English, but having that kind of segue or that relationship already established just makes you that much more comfortable, maybe a sense of belonging. We saw them play one game together in preseason. It didn't have a whole lot of fruit, but that's not really a shock because it's in a lot of ways just it's sloppy hockey. But there's always that potential as well to see if those guys can do something on a night where there maybe injuries lead to them being together too. So just another option and some excitement for both of those players.
Mitchell, speaking of untapped offense, Josh Morrissey appears to be just filling the net from all angles. Had some preseason goals. He's been sniping in practice. He's just looked really sharp through the first few weeks of camp here heading into the regular season. Just what have you thought of the D-man's play so far and the pairing with Nate Schmidt? I think this is a truly new and unique opportunity for him and a situation he's finding himself in that he really hasn't been familiar with since Jacob Trouba left the organization.
Yeah, and they're both guys that like to get up the ice and be aggressive in doing that. And I think Josh Morrissey, I mean, it's been well documented everything that he was going through last year with his the battle that his father was having, and then also just being, he had a rotating partners pretty much all the time. As much as you tried to have some consistency with him, it was difficult to do, whether it was injuries or just moving guys around and trying to find what worked best for those groups of defensemen over the last couple seasons. Now, pretty much since the first day of camp, it's been Nate Schmidt as his partner, and the two of them have just been able to work together. They played a few preseason games together, which is always helpful, and then they're basically ready to hit the ground running. But you mentioned like the offensive side of his game. He's a guy that, in junior had some offense to him, and it's there. Just the last couple seasons, it probably just hasn't been a priority for Josh Morrissey. It's been find a way to be as good as humanly possible defensively. Now, he and Nate Schmidt can kind of read off each other a little bit. And you mentioned that, he's been showing some offense, got a couple goals in the preseason. And I actually really like, there's the one power play unit that they've been running has him in kind of a one-timer spot in that right circle. And he's looked dangerous in that spot, whether, like you mentioned, whether it's in practice or otherwise. I think there's a lot of potential for him to have that quote-unquote breakout year, if you will. as much of a breakout year as you can have as a guy who's, 26 years old, as Josh Morrissey is. But, these guys are professional athletes. They're always looking to find ways to take that next step, add something else into their game. That offensive side of things has always been there for Josh Morrissey. Whether he's been able to use it over the last little while, obviously is something that we've talked about. But I think this year there's potential there. And if he's, staying on that second power play unit, or as Nikolai Ehlers likes to call it, the Ehlers unit, that's a unit that last year put up a lot of points for the Jets on the power play, and Josh Morrissey could be a huge part of that.
So it's funny you mentioned Spot on the right circle. When I was filming the Mic'd Up against Calgary here in Winnipeg, Schmidt and Morrissey are obviously the defensive pair on that second unit, but there was a conversation being had between Nikolai Ehlers. Well, it first started with Josh and Nate saying, I'm going to try and feed you pucks because this is a new spot on the power play for you. But at the same time, I think Nikolai was getting a little upset because he was being looked off. And so Josh and Nate were having this conversation about this. And then Nate says, well, I better talk to Nikolai just to let him know. Like, look, man, I'm just trying to help Josh out because he's never played there before and you're a stud over there. And then there was a whole conversation on the bench between Nikolai and Nate just saying, like, okay, that's why you're looking me off all the time. And Nikolai ended up almost having a hat trick that night. So
yeah, exactly.
He needs to stop complaining, essentially, I think.
You know what? It's interesting to add with Josh Morrissey and Nate Schmidt, where they're going to complement each other and unlock a lot of different skill sets from each other. Josh Morrissey is going to be able to get up the ice more often with more comfort. And there's just like a recipe that balances itself out. So to me, I look back to even Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry. What's overlooked is, we talk about Andrew Kopp taking steps offensively and how his game is, he's had career highs in virtually every category you can. Well, a lot of that had to do, in my mind, with Adam Lowry, where you can take chances, you can push the limits, and that you've got somebody that you can trust that is going to allow you to recover from mistakes. And confidence grows when you're around people that you can trust. And I translate that over to with Morrissey and Schmidt, where there's the potential for the same thing to happen, where now you're just going to, and that's not a slight on past partners, but in the same way, I think that we could potentially see, to Mitch's point, a new heights and a breakout year for Josh because of the trust and the veteran presence and the things that Nate Schmidt will unlock in Josh Morrissey to allow him to push those limits.
We've talked about the power play a little bit here, but we'll kind of get into the whole thing on a grander scale. Kevin, just the power play, obviously no more Matthew Perreault on that second unit. He's moved on to Montreal. Pierre-Luc Dubois has moved into the middle spot that Mark Scheifele occupied for a lot of his time here in Winnipeg. Just the power play for you, what have you seen? How do you think it could work this year? Obviously, Adam Lowry looks like it's going to be in that first unit against Anaheim, given Scheifele's suspension finishing up.
Yeah, you know what? Moving parts for game number one, and it's confusing to kind of find the rhythm and get a real good feel for what it's going to look like because they're trying to get different guys into rotations and find some consistency with an inconsistent start. The biggest thing, and I would say question mark, that I think is going to evolve over time is with Pierre-Luc Dubois in the slot area. So you got Blake Wheeler on that unit that the power play runs through. He's up and down on rails on that strong side, and with Mark Scheifele in the one-timer situation, that isn't a pass that's going to connect often because teams are going to try to shut that down. They're going to know, and that's not an easy pass to make. But they've got different options. The one thing I'm not sure about yet is the multiple functions that Pierre-Luc is going to have. Being a left-handed shot, he's not in a one-timer situation when Blake Wheeler has the puck. So to me, I'm already wondering, okay, is that going to draw more pressure to Blake Wheeler because they know that Pierre-Luc can't release the puck from the slot area? If that's the case, we know that Blake can deal with that. It means that someone else is going to have more time and space. It's just a matter of whether they're going to be able to expose that. They will. I'm just not quite sure how that's going to work yet. There's some change there that it's going to evolve, and we'll see. Now, the other unit has been crisp and almost surprisingly crisp with how they've got a dangerous shot in all three lanes. So whether it's up top from Schmidt, Ehlers up and down, and we know that he can shoot the puck where he skates down towards the net or pass it equally as well. But the addition that really stands out is Josh Morrissey. I didn't know he can shoot the puck the way that he's been shooting it, with the velocity but also the accuracy. So that one, they've got some swagger already. I'm really excited to see. There's simplicity to it, but there's skill all around it as well. It seems like early they understand what makes them dangerous.
All right, well, we'll slide into our guest here, Dylan DeMelo, joining Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Mitchell, take it away. Intro our guest.
So much pressure. Obviously, lots to talk about with Dylan DeMelo. We kind of touched on a few things about how his training camp is a little bit different this year, how it's felt a little bit different. Also, obviously, his long-standing relationship with Brendan Dillon, and the fact that over the offseason he met an Olympian who made had an incredible performance. So lots of topics to talk about, and the chat moves very quickly because, like I said, lots to talk about.
Go.
Mark Scheifele with a one-timer through the seam.
Jets.
Oh, what a save! Potter, hell of a
Go.
score!
Jets fans, are you ready for takeoff? Are you ready for the return of live in-person NHL hockey? The 21-22 season is just around the corner. Get your tickets now at winnipegjets.com/tickets. Quarter season plans, single game tickets, and full season seat packages are available. Visit winnipegjets.com/tickets and buy now.
Hi, this is Dylan DeMelo, and you're listening to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, first off, Dylan, thanks for joining us on Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Podcast you were on last season. Just curious, obviously we're coming to the tail end of training camp here. Just curious how things are going. Obviously some new faces on the blue line, but just curious how camp has been, and do you feel ready to go for the regular season?
Yeah, I think camp's been really good. It's been high pace. Been pretty intense. Obviously there's some spots up for grabs. So it's been a good camp, and knock on wood, everybody's getting through it pretty healthy so far, and everything's been really good. Excited to get going. It's a huge year for us. Obviously, we brought some additions in that should really help our team overall. So I think we have high expectations for our group, and hopefully we can have a good start to the year and roll with that.
You said knock on wood. There's a wooden cabinet next to us.
Yeah.
So give it a little knock there. Just in turn, how different does this feel this year over what obviously everybody went through last year with the bubble? And because I know even in guys that come out and talk to media, they just kind of say, it's nice to be able to go for dinner with guys and everything. Like, you came over at the trade deadline a couple seasons ago, and then the shutdown happened very shortly after that. So really, you even haven't had much of an opportunity to see much of Winnipeg, really, I would imagine. So how different is this year than what you guys maybe went through last year?
Yeah, it's everything's different about it. Obviously we still have some protocols and testing and things of that nature, but it's as normal as I think it can be. And we're able to go and do things that we weren't able to do for the last year and a half or so, or 2 years. So everything just feels normal again. Everything just feels like it's back to normal. Even just doing a normal training camp helps a lot. And not having like abbreviated year where we're playing only 6 teams or 7 teams or whatever it was. So it's nice to be able to, have a normal schedule too, and see the rest of the league. And, we haven't seen some of these teams in a little while. And, everybody kind of has their food spots in those cities. And, you look forward to going on the road and hanging out with the guys. So we got a real good group of guys, and, made a tough situation last year a bright spot, and looking forward to kind of, having a normal year this year.
And you mentioned a normal schedule. Obviously, you welcomed your son into the family last year in January and around the start of the regular season. Just curious, how are you able to at least somewhat predict what his schedule might be on a day-to-day basis a little bit better as a family now, or is it still kind of up in the air? I mean, he's not even 1 yet.
Yeah, I mean, your whole life changes. So I think our schedule is his schedule, really. Like, we like to, I guess, have some type of guideline, but, it all depends on how his sleep is and things of that nature. So I would say for the most part we have an idea to work around his schedule, but it's sometimes hit or miss. He's not the best sleeper at night, unfortunately, so that keeps us on our toes.
I'm curious how quickly the dad jokes started coming out of your mouth. Did it happen right away?
Maybe. I don't know. A couple of them didn't land, that's for sure, when I tried to throw them down. But, and I guess I'm still kind of a young dad, I guess you could say. Some days I feel a lot older than I am. But, it's, I guess maybe there's no good age to have a kid when you're a pro athlete. So, everything's been great. We've enjoyed it so far. It's been an amazing experience for us, and we're so blessed to have them in our lives. And it's just been amazing.
Looking back at the off season, what it was, I was going through your Twitter timeline. I mean, One of the things, I don't know if it was through your agency or how it was, but you got to meet the Olympian Damian Warner, a fellow guy from London, Ontario. What was that experience like? And I remember when Desiree Scott, who won gold with the Canadian women's soccer team, when she won bronze, I believe it was back in 2012, just how heavy those medals are. Did you get to...
I didn't touch the medal. No, I didn't touch it. I don't know, maybe one of those things like if you touch the cup, you're never going to win one. I don't know. But I actually met Damian years before. Logan Couture runs a charity event for concussion research in London. So I met Damian a little bit and actually got to talk to him more at that event, at the charity event than his kind of party because, he's shaking hands and kissing babies type thing. So it was just kind of like a quick congratulations, that's an amazing accomplishment. And it was just a quick exchange. But, the way he was talking and how he was very appreciative about everybody getting him to where he was today, all the coaches and his family and things of that nature. He's super humble guy. And I actually got a lot more out of his speech than actually talking to him.
What kinds of things did he talk about?
Well, he was just saying how hard and long the journey was and how much, work, not what he put into, but what his family had to sacrifice, what his coaches had to do. He has like 6 coaches that help him, nutritionists, weight training, whatever it is. He was just very thankful for all their help. And especially in a tough year that they had to train, they trained out of an old hockey arena. Like they couldn't do what they wanted to do with COVID and everything. So, he was just super thankful and super humble. And, this guy's the best athlete in the world. And to come off like that, you talk to him or you just hear him speak, he just seems like a regular guy. But he's obviously a freak athlete and he's very well deserving. And hopefully he can do it again in 4 years. Or 3 years, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. Last one on him. Just from your perspective as a professional athlete, when you look at someone that does something like the decathlon, which is, you're specialized in not just one event, but 10.
Right.
And to be able to, put up the kind of numbers that he did in the Olympics, even what he did there was incredible. As someone who, plays professional hockey, your focus is one sport. I mean, there's a bunch of nuances in that sport, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But when you see a guy like him that goes and, specializes in 10 and has to find, the time to train in all of those, can you speak to maybe the level of difficulty that's involved in that to be able to, spread yourself out in that way?
Yeah, like I don't even know the words. Like it's an amazing, it's got to be amazing dedication for any Olympic athlete in general. Like that training, like we're lucky in hockey, we play every year, they're Stanley Cup is every 4 years, right? Like, so the training and all that has to go involved, the dedication over time, over a 4-year period that you have to put into just one Olympic Games, and then to do 10 events. And he was, I think the 100-meter dash he would have placed in the final for it. Yeah. Like, I mean, the hard work and dedication that has to go into that, I think, is utmost. And obviously he has some natural gifts, abilities, but it's all hard work, dedication, and the mental focus, the ability to have a goal in mind and reach it just speaks to, the way his mindset was. And I think, everybody talks about how the game's more mental than physical. And I think that speaks, exactly to that. You have to dream it every day, and you have to, see your plan and then try to work that out. So for me, I just was blown away about how great he did. And obviously the dedication and the strength mentally to go through all of that. I'm sure some days are hard, and there's some events that you're not as good in, right? So he had to work at it, and that's just a testament to every pro athlete. You got to work at your game no matter how old you are, where you are. There's always something to improve. So amazing accomplishment for him.
Last one for you, just on the team itself. You mentioned some of the new faces that are on the blue line. Obviously, one of them not really new to you, and Brendan Dillon. Just curious what it's been like for you to have him around again. Obviously, a guy that you were paired with a lot.
Yeah, nice to have him around for sure. As good as a player as he is on the ice, he's an even better person off the ice. Same with Schmitty. So, you can't have too many good people in your locker room or in your organization. So. It kind of feels like old times a little bit, sitting beside him in the room and chatting with them. It's kind of, a little deja vu type moment, just a little different settings around us. So it's been great having them. Those guys have fit in real well so far, and I think they're going to bring a lot to our back end.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Shop where the players shop. Jets Gear and TrueNorthShop.com are your authentic team stores. Make sure to stock up on all your favorite Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose merchandise today. Visit one of the 5 Jets gear locations or shop online at truenorthshop.com.
Thanks so much to Dylan for taking the time to chat with Mitch. I know that's a task, as always, to have a conversation with you. So, just kidding, obviously.
He's probably looking around in the loading dock of the Iceplex, being like, "Is there anywhere else I can go right now?"
All right, so this is exciting. We actually have regular season games to talk about. The Winnipeg Jets are in Anaheim to start the regular season schedule on Wednesday. It's kind of a different road trip. It's game, 2 days off, game in San Jose on Saturday night, and then another 2 days off of game action, and then into Minnesota on the following Tuesday. So 3 road games to start the year. The last time the Winnipeg Jets were in Anaheim was November 29th of 2019. So it has been a hot minute since then. Mm-hmm. I know none of us are looking forward to exploring California again. So, Mitch, just what are you expecting from the Jets? Not so much from the team. We've talked about them at length, but maybe the opponents.
Yeah, and I thought Paul Morrissey gave a really good kind of synopsis on what you're expecting from the Anaheim Ducks. You look back at 2015, and that's kind of the team that everybody thinks of when you think of Anaheim, just a really grinding team, a tough forechecking team that really tough to play against. And based on, I guess, some of the preseason games that have been out there, they look a little bit more like they're shifting towards that skilled, almost Eastern Conference style of game, if you will. So that'll be something interesting to see. And with a lot of these teams, I mean, they close out the road trip with the Minnesota Wild. That's a team that, has always kind of been really structurally sound defensively and had to fight tooth and nail for any sort of offense that they could get. But then you look at last season, they were one of the most exciting teams to watch in the league, and Kirill Kaprizov obviously was a big part of that. So will be interesting to see him live for the first time, and the Jets, will be playing against him for the first time. So that's something to look forward to right at the end of the road trip as well. So, but like it is with a lot of these teams, it's so hard to predict, because if you've been watching some of the Central Division previews that we've been putting out on WinnipegJets.com, I mean, I didn't envy Jamie and Paul in the middle of it having to dissect all the moves that all these teams have made, because the roster makeup of all these teams that the Jets are going to face, especially over the course of the first couple months, they look so different than what they were in 2020 or even 2019 when it comes to the Anaheim Ducks. So that being said, the Jets are going to face the Ducks 3 times in 3 weeks, so they'll see a lot of them in the first month.
It's funny you mentioned Kirill Kaprizov, because watching him last year with Minnesota, it sort of reminds me of like a problem in your life that you keep procrastinating. You see him having success, and you're like, oh, he is going to give us fits in a little while. Not right now, but he is going to be our problem soon, and he's about to be a problem for the Winnipeg Jets. And if you're procrastinating buying tickets to Winnipeg Jets home games, look no further than head to WinnipegJets.com. Great tickets available for the home opener, the 21st of October against the Anaheim Ducks, as Mitch mentioned. And then 2 days later, the Nashville Predators are in town to rekindle the rivalry. I'm sure that'll be exciting. So, like I said, WinnipegJets.com/tickets. You can get tickets for those 2 games and any game for the Winnipeg Jets this season. Let Kevin wrap it up here. I do have a question for you, and I pose this to you as the fact that you're a former NHL player. There was a comment made by Andrew Kopp about Nate Schmidt and Brendan Dillon, and just how these guys are guys you can win with. So as a former player, what is the gravity behind that statement? Because I just don't think that statement gets made about anybody that comes into your locker room. So I guess, what does that mean, and how powerful are those words?
Well, considering who they came from with Andrew Kopp, he's not saying that without meaning it. Yeah. I'll look back to my last year in the league in Anaheim in 2003, and we were not the same as the Jets in the sense that this team is loaded with talent. We were more of an underdog on the outside trying to get into the playoffs, but we made 2 moves at the trade deadline. We brought in Steve Thomas Stumpy and Rob Niedermeyer. And so there was no subtraction to the room whatsoever. We kept who we were intact, but added what we thought we needed: some experience, some scoring punch, some penalty killing, and some speed with Rob Niedermeyer. And the personalities fit well. I don't know that you could have predicted it, but they did. And then they filled holes that we needed on the ice as well. So when you get taken care of on and off the ice, well, we go to the Stanley Cup final and lost in Game 7 to New Jersey that year. So it was fit, or moves that fit perfectly. So I translate that to this, where there's been no real change to the core and what the identity of this club is. It's just been addition, so no subtraction. And you look on the ice first. Well, let's go off the ice. It's the personalities, and lots have been made about Nate Schmidt and that energy. You know what? It's welcome here for sure. We know that we've got some personalities that are all business. Blake Wheeler, the way that he leads, and it's needed. But there's a real offsetting energy and a lightheartedness that Nate Schmidt brings. That's going to help. You cannot undervalue how important it is that the locker room feels comfortable, feels relaxed, yet focused to win. And Brendan Dillon, the same, just an outstanding person on the ice. These guys are going to change so much, not individually, but they allow the Jets to change the way they play the game. And we won't dive into all the different zones, and there will be changes in all 3 different zones, but the thing that stands out for me is they've added some risk to their game. And to me, that lends itself to who they are. Try to catch us. We're going to play even faster. We're already a fast team, but they're going to ramp that part up. So they're going to defend with more aggression. They're going to take a little bit more risk. You're going to see them leave their zone quicker. They feel like they've got 6 defensemen that could skate the puck, move the puck, make plays, and that allows the fast kind of identity of the forwards to get on their toes and let's get going. So you're going to ask less of your forwards like they had in the last couple of years, maybe to sacrifice some of that offensive speed to defend as a group of 5. Not that they're turning their back on that, because they're not. But when you look at what you want to be, dictating and making other teams adapt to you, they are going to be wickedly fast. And I think the addition of Schmidt and Brendan Dillon allow them to shift their mentality when they don't have the puck, transitioning to offense when they do get it. It is going to be exciting as an analyst. I just can't wait to see how this evolves and to see some of the changes that we're used to seeing develop as we start this regular season. I can't wait. It's going to be a really exciting team to watch.
Well, we'll wrap this up with some fun and authentic nuggets here. It's Thanksgiving weekend, of course, so happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. I hope you've had some time to enjoy family safely, of course, this weekend. I pose the question to you guys: what is your favorite element of a Thanksgiving meal, or the traditional, in the traditional sense?
Well, for me, I would have to. I don't even know why I'm thinking about it. It's pierogies. That's what I have all the time, every single meal. For Thanksgiving, Christmas, you name it, it's pierogies 100%. I'm the person that goes up there that takes like a few, and then kind of eyes up. Okay, everybody's kind of got, and then I know I can go back for more. So that's it for me.
I don't even have to think about this. I'm a stuffing guy.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not one of those people that has to have their food separated. If it touches on the plate with other food, I'm fine with that. So let's just go with stuffing and gravy, and just on top of that, pack on a big piece of pumpkin pie with whipped cream. You can mix it all up in a blender for me.
I was going to say, you're literally eating it together.
It doesn't matter to me. I love them so much. I mean, just skip everything else. Just go right for the stuffing, gravy, pumpkin pie with whipped cream, and I will eat until I fall asleep in my chair.
You know, for me, I don't know if it's traditional, but it is at my parents' house. The cabbage rolls. That's my favorite part. Yeah, so delicious. And then, yeah, like you said, the food touching. I don't think it's possible to have a Thanksgiving feast and then have the food not touching. You need a plate the size of a satellite dish or something to have the things not touching. Anyway, like I said, hope everybody listening to this has had a great Thanksgiving. We'll wrap it up here. On behalf of myself, Tyler Esquivel, Jets TV's Mitchell Clinton, and of course, TSN's Kevin Sawyer. Thanks so much for joining us. Glad to have you.
Love being here. Hope it's not the last time.
Awesome. I don't think it will be. So enjoy your week, everybody. Go Jets, go. And we'll see you next week.
This is Big Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV. For Jets news, videos, and more, head to winnipegjets.com.
Proceed with Able.